I'd like to tell you a story, and the story begins in 1983. I've just left college. I'm clean shaven. In fact, it would be another 10 years or so before I was shaving daily. I've got long hair because this was the 1980s. I've got questionable taste in clothing and music, again, because it was the 80s. Both the clothing and the music cost money. And I had a girlfriend too, so I needed cash. And besides, once I was out of full-time education, my dad was on my case on a daily basis, urging, pleading, and demanding that I get a job. Things were very different back then. There were employment agencies, but they specialised either in construction work or secretarial roles. I wanted neither of those. So my search for gainful employment was much more hands-on, much more laborious, much more tiresome and monotonous. It involved scouring the local newspaper for situations vacant, calling local businesses to offer my services, and in my case, it involved writing more than 100 letters to companies about which I knew precisely nothing, folding them, placing them into an envelope, and then walking to the nearest postbox to send them off. And then waiting. I remember there was a lot of waiting. Out of the 100+ letters that I sent, I landed several interviews. One was with a construction company in North London, which I considered too far away from home comforts. And another was for a contract furnishing company just 2 stops away on the train and not a million miles away from where I'd attended college, and better still, a short walk to my girlfriend's house. Thankfully for me, that was the job I was offered, and I gratefully accepted. But I left about 6 months later because, well, the job wasn't for me, and I most certainly wasn't for the job. But that's how things were done in my time. You worked largely blind. You had no idea how good a company was. In my case, I had no idea what my first employer even did until I attended the interview. Things are different today. You've got a lot of online job boards, recruitment agencies, and with their sparkly white teeth and their excessive makeup. You've got LinkedIn, and of course, you have the internet. In an instant, you can check out companies and industry sectors before you decide if that is the career path for you. So yesterday afternoon, while I was waiting for the Volvo online product launch to commence, that's what I did. I did some role play. In my head, I imagined I was 18 again and desperate for a job, if only to get some peace from my father. First off, I used my daughter's computer as I didn't want my Google history to influence the search results. And I started by searching randomly for UK construction and UK demolition. The results I got back were not good. Not good at all. The first headlines all related to company insolvencies and economic difficulties impacting the sector. So I dug a little deeper, and there were headlines about accidents and site fatalities. I dug a little bit deeper still, and there was an array of headlines relating to fraud and corruption. It left me thinking, if I'd done that same research with my mum or dad sat beside me, I'm pretty sure they would have questioned my industry choice. So I cleared all of that, and I started searching individual companies in both demolition and construction. Like any self-respecting 18-year-old worth their salt today, I used ChatGPT to compile a list of the top 10 demolition firms and the top 10 construction firms. And then I started searching Google based on those names. If anything, that made things worse, particularly in the sphere of demolition. You see, Google doesn't forget. And so many of the search results for the company's demolition's top 10 appeared alongside references to the CMA investigation into bid rigging, even though it was concluded almost 2 years ago. And once again, I was left to ponder how I would explain to my parents my eagerness to work for a company that had been found guilty of large-scale collusion. There were also a couple of fatal accidents mentioned too, hardly the kind of thing that a protective parent wants for their precious offspring. In absolute truth, the search results of the top 10 construction companies really weren't much better. Although there were fewer mentions of both bid rigging and fatal accidents, there were more headlines relating to companies in financial difficulties, profit warnings, late payments to suppliers, narrow margins, and losses made on specific projects. There was also a lot of recent headlines about issues with competence cards and the like, and the lack of women within the industry. Back in 1983, none of that would have mattered. Myself and my fellow school and college leavers were working mostly blind. To be honest, we were just glad to get an interview. But in the 42 years since, I've learned a lot about the demolition and construction sector. I've experienced the camaraderie and the banter. I've been up close with some of the most impressive equipment in the world. I've met some amazing people and seen some truly incredible projects. I've seen friends rise through the ranks to have well paid and highly rewarding jobs. But I saw all those positives from within. In fact, I only saw all of those benefits once I was working within the sector. And maybe that explains one of the many reasons the sector is struggling to attract young people. Looking at the sector from within, it's easy to see the good things. Yes, it is rough, tough, and demanding, but it can be well paid and extremely rewarding. But looking at the sector from the outside, I saw enough from my Google search to put me off the industry for life. And I've got a horrible feeling that young people doing the same search today might just feel likewise.